Hey guys, so this is the first video in our factoring series. We're going to talk about how to factor into binomial form, and that's that x plus a times by x plus b kind of look. You guys will see what I'm talking about in just a minute. There are three different ways: quick factoring, AC factoring, and slide and divide method. First one we're going to go over is quick factoring. I'll talk about the pros and cons of each. As long as you learn one of the methods, you'll be totally fine. You don't need to know all three. So watch through all the videos, choose which one you like, and stick with that one. If you kind of find out you don't care for it too much, jump to another one. That's why we're doing multiple takes on this. So first off, let's talk about quick factoring. Here are some of the pros. It's quick, obviously by virtue of its name. That's the goal with this. It helps you build the logic of how factoring works, and the more you do it the quick factoring way, the better your brain starts making these connections. It's like constantly doing 3 times 3. You just know it's 9 after a while. You don't need to build it up. And by algebra 2, and once you get to higher levels of math, everyone should be doing it this way. Whenever you talk to someone who's good with math, almost everyone does quick factoring instead of the other two methods, just because as they do it more and more, they start to see the patterns that you use in quick factoring. The bad thing, though, some of the cons that we have is this requires good intuition of multiplication and how to factor numbers. What I mean by that is, what are some of the factors of 12? Meaning, what are the things that multiply to give me 12? What are the things that multiply to give me 10? How do all of those work? So that's something that you need to be good at, and if you're not good at it, it makes it a little more difficult, which is why a lot of people get there eventually, but this isn't the one that a lot of people love to start with. If you are fairly comfortable with your multiplication tables and dividing things out easily, I would highly recommend starting with this one though. Finally, it takes time to get good at, and it isn't really systematic. It's the shortest in terms of steps, but sometimes if you don't see it right away, it does take time, and there's not a lot that you can tweak with this in order to slowly work to it. It's one of those, you kind of either see it or you don't see it. So with that, let's kind of jump into an example. So when we're doing quick factoring, my goal is we're given this x squared plus 5x minus 6, and I want to factor it into this x plus a times by x plus b kind of thing. And when we're doing this, remember, factoring is just undoing multiplication. So all we're doing is we have this, and if I FOILed it, or if I multiplied the polynomials together, I would get this quadratic. Remember, quadratic means polynomial with the highest power or a highest exponent of 2. And FOILing is just how we multiply those polynomials. So now when we're factoring, we're undoing that. My goal is we want to undo it. So when we're seeing this, we're like, wait a minute, this is a quadratic, which means I multiplied 2 binomials together to get this, most likely. So the whole idea behind quick factoring is you're cheating. You're using what you know should happen, and you're just setting it up like that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you remember FOILing, the way we get this last number is we multiply this number here and this number here. So there's 2 major parts that you need to set up. Number 1, your parentheses, and second, your plus and your minus. Now, the way we set up the plus and the minus is there's a few different situations. The first situation is this. If this number is negative, if this third number is negative, then these will be different. One's plus, one's minus. If it's positive, then these will both be the same, either plus plus or minus minus. So let me say that one more time. If your third number is positive, then both of the symbols in here will be the same as this first one. They'll both be the same, and they'll be whatever the first one is. However, if it's a minus, like in this case, or a negative, then one is plus and one is minus. It doesn't matter which one's which because you'll be switching things around. I'll show you in just a second. So again, we're cheating. We're setting this up. First 2 things we set up is, number 1, we set our parentheses. The second thing we set up is one's plus, one's minus, and that depends on what your third number is. If it's positive, they're both the same. If it's negative, they're both different. Okay. Now, from here, after that, basically what you're going to do is you're going to say what factors go into this first term and what factors go into this second term, and those factors will go right over here. So how do we get x squared? What do we get multiplied together to get x squared? And as you guys know, it's just x times x. That means 1x goes here and 1x goes here. So we're just breaking apart our multiplication. We're undoing our multiplication. And then after that, we look at this third term here and we say, what number is multiplied to give us negative 6? And the answer is positive 3 times by negative 2, or negative 3 times by positive 2, or positive 6 times negative 1, or negative 6 times positive 1, right? There's a lot of different options, so we're just going to test one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in positive 3 and negative 2. So I'm going to start off with that. And the question is this correct? So so far we have two steps. Number one, we set up our parentheses and we set up our plus or minus. The second thing that we do is we test out put in some factors. And the third step is we need to test our factors. Now, the way we test our factors is basically we're foiling. And the thing we do here is we just OI test it. We multiply the outers, we multiply the inners. So we're going to get negative 2x plus 3x. And for this to work, these two need to add up to give me my b. I know there's a lot of things going on here. Unfortunately, because we didn't cover foiling too much in depth, you won't fully understand why this is working, and I'm just waving my hands just a little bit here. But if you're having trouble, go back, check that foiling video, check the video, I think it's quadratics multiplying and factoring video number 2. So make sure that you guys are doing that. If you understand that, that makes this a little easier. But here's what we have, negative 2x plus 3x, and that gives me 1x. Unfortunately, 1x does not match up to 5x. And because 1x doesn't match up to 5x, that means this first one doesn't work. So now we try another one. Now, I know that if I'm adding these two up, it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump right to this one. So we're going to try this out instead. So this is going to be plus 6 and minus 1. So now we do our OI test, our outer inner. So we're multiplying x and negative 1, so we get negative x. And 6 and x, we get plus 6x. So negative x plus 6x, that's 5x. So it's like saying 6x minus 1x, which is just 5x. And hey, look, that's the one we want. So that's how we know this is our final answer. So the way we factor it is we get x plus 6 times by x minus 1. Now, for those of you who might not understand, when you're factoring, again, that's just unmultiplying. So your goal is just simply to get these parentheses out. When it says to factor into this binomial form, this is what it means. Okay, and that's it. We're done. Again, there's a lot of hand waving. I'm going to do another example. I'm going to take it just a little bit slower. So then now from here, we're going to do the exact same thing. So step 1, first thing I said we want to do is we want to set up our parentheses. We know we want to get it in binomial form. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our plus and our minus. Now what we do is we look at this third number. If this is a negative, then one's positive, one's negative. We don't care what's what. Then we look at this first term. What are the factors of 3x? Well, there's a 3x times by an x. And the way we know that is, well, how do we break up 3? What are factors of 3? 3 times 1. What are factors of x squared? Well, it's just x times x. And then we just split it evenly. So 3x and 1x. Now, after we're at this point, this is where it gets a little more tricky. We have to say, what are the factors of negative 4? So we have negative 4, and then some of the factors of negative 4 are negative 2 times 2. We also have negative 4 times by 1. And then we can kind of reverse this around. So we can choose whichever one we want to try first. So I'm going to pick this first one here just because I wrote it down first. So I'm going to put the positive 2 here. I'm going to put the negative 2 here. Now we do our OI test. So we do 3 times negative 2, which gives us negative 6x. And 2 times 1x, which gives me 2x. And when we add them together, we get negative 4x. Now, unfortunately, I want it to be x. So that means this one's wrong. So that means let's check this second one out, see if that works. So we're going to put this in 1 and negative 4. All right. Now from here we get negative 12x by doing outer plus 1x by doing inner. That's negative 11x. And again, that doesn't work. So that means, wait a minute, let's move things around. What if instead of timesing the 3, what if we changed it like this? Negative 4. And we made this one positive 1. So that way the 3 and 4 aren't multiplying together, so that we have a better shot of getting 1. So we have 3 times 1, which is going to give me 3x, and negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4x. And that gives me negative x. That's super, super close, but it's not quite the positive x we want. So what if instead we just switch around this positive and this negative? So now we have negative 3x and positive x, and that gives me the x we want, which means this is our final answer. Our final answer is 3x plus 4 times x minus 1. As you can see, there's a lot of guessing, a lot of checking, and a lot of moving things around. That's why this is the more difficult method. It's kind of hard for people to see, And it's something I would only recommend if you feel really comfortable multiplying, dividing, and factoring. It is something that we want you guys to get used to in the future, but for now, if you're looking at this and you're like, this is nuts, just move on to the next video already. For those of you who are going to stick around, let's go kind of show you how to do this. So there are three major parts. Number one, set your parentheses. Set your positive or negatives. Again, that's based on your third term. And then finally, try out your factors. Do your outers and your inners. That's your little OI method. And you're just testing to see if it works. Okay, let's do it one last time. I'm not going to go over the variant, sorry. So number one, we set our parentheses. Then we set positive or negative. Now again, this is negative 10, so that means this is plus, this is minus. And then we're going to break up 4x squared. Now 4x squared has a 4 and an x squared. So what are the factors of 4? 4, 1, or 2, 2. What are the factors of x squared? That's x. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to know which one you're going to use, so you're going to have to just take a pick. So I'm just going to pick this one because I wrote it down first. So it's going to be 4x times by 1x. And again, we're just moving 1x here, 1x here. We're just splitting it up evenly again. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to say, what are the factors of negative 10? Negative 10. And that's going to be negative 5 and 2. So I'm just going to write that out. We're just going to try it. So then we're going to write 2 and negative 5. So we have 4 times negative 5, 4x times negative 5, which is negative 20x. Again, we're doing our outers, negative 20x. And then we're doing our inners, plus 2x. Now from here, we're going to get negative 18x. Yeah, that's not even close. So let's try something else. What if I swap this around? So I made this one negative and this one positive. So we're going to make this positive 5 and this one negative 2. So we have 20x. Yeah, that's not even close again. We don't want to multiply the 4 and the 5 because then the numbers just get way too big. So instead, what if I moved this around? So I said positive 5 and negative 2. So then we say 4x times negative 2, that's negative 8x. And then 5 times 1x, that's 5x, which gives me negative 3x. Hey, that's really close, but we don't want the positives and negatives. We want it's backwards. So we're going to swap these positives and negatives to give me negative positive. So then we're going to get 8x minus 5x, which is just 3x, which means this is our final answer. Again, there's a lot of moving around. Unfortunately, this works much better if I can watch what you're doing and I can slowly help you. We don't have that luxury right now. So if you're, again, having trouble with this, check out one of the other two videos. This is the method we eventually want you to get, this quick graphing. But again, a lot of it comes with you knowing how to factor things, which I wasn't able to teach you in class. Make sure you check those videos out if you're having trouble. So again, this is quick factoring. This is part one. If you're feeling confused, just take a quick 5-minute break, take a breather, then move on to one of the other two videos. As long as you know one of the methods, that's totally fine. All right, check you in the next video.